Hi, and welcome to Steel Talk. My name is Danny Stain, and in this show, I reach out to insiders in the steel fabricating industry and try and get a handle on how people are navigating this rapidly changing landscape. I think we're all struggling with this new reality and the stress that is imposing on our businesses, our family lives, and even our own personal emotional stability. In the upcoming shows, I'll be chatting to fabricators here in the USA and around the world. I'll also be chatting to manufacturers and service providers to understand how this is affecting the entire steel industry and the supply chain, and to better understand what procedures they have implemented and where they see this going. And in terms of upcoming shows, this Thursday at 1 o'clock, I'll be chatting with Tom Clash, who's an accountant, and he's been examining what the stimulus package has to offer our industry, and I'm sure you'll find him very informative. So please stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with a good friend and business partner, William Giacometti, who is speaking to us from his home in Fano, Italy. He is the CEO of MEP and HYDMECH Group, and he has the distinction of managing 5 manufacturing facilities in China, Italy, Canada, USA, and Brazil. So he's been dealing with COVID-19 since the middle of January, and I can think of no one better to share the insights of what we are still likely to face here in the United States. Please be patient with us. William's English is tough to understand for some, but trust me, if you tune in closely with your ears, you will totally understand what he has to say. So without further delay, here is William Giacometti. Welcome, William.
Hi, Danny. Good afternoon.
How are you doing, and how is life treating you there in Fano, Italy?
Yeah, it's a long days because really we need to be patient, as a matter of fact, and I stay connected with all the people around the world, all my people.
So tell me, just to give some context, where is Fano in Italy? Give us an idea of where it sits.
I have to say that Fano is in the center part of Italy, in the Marche region, is about 200 kilometers south of Venice on the Adriatic Sea, on the seaside.
Fantastic. And tell me a little bit about the MEP HYDMECH Group, what the products that are that you manufacture, and where exactly your facilities are.
So, in terms of MEP HYDMECH Group, we are a manufacturer of sewing machine for cutting metal. And we have the 2 headquarters, let me say, one in Italy, in Pergola, nearby where I'm staying, and one in Woodstock, Ontario. Then we have other factories where we are assembling locally machine, and so we are a factory in Suzhou, China, about 50 miles west of Shanghai, and one facility in United States, another facility we are assembling machine and producing machine for the US market in Conway, Arkansas. And last but not least, we have a company for sales, after sales, spare parts, and so on for the Brazilian market.
Well, thanks, William. I think that gives us some good context. So if you don't mind, I think the way that I'd like to break down the show is into a few segments. What I would like to do is to go through this, through each country, when you started dealing with the effects of COVID, the way the country responded, and how your company responded. And I think it would make sense to go through them in the order of the infections. So starting first with China, then Italy, then Canada and the USA possibly together, and then finally Brazil. And then towards the end, we can sort of compare how these different responses impacted daily life, personal freedoms of the civilians and the employees, how it affected possibly infection rates and mortality, and of course, the business in each one of these countries, because I'm sure they're markedly different. So if you don't mind, let's first start with China. I believe your company is about 800 kilometers from the Wuhan province, city of Hubei, which has had the largest infection outside of let's say, the largest infection anywhere in the world. Tell me a little bit about the size of the company there, how many employees you had, and when you first started dealing with this.
Okay, so as a matter of fact, we are located in Suzhou. It is a very large town, 6 million people. And we are exactly more or less 500 miles north east of Wuhan. And so between our province and the Hubei province, there is in the middle also another province, as a matter of fact. And as a matter, we got involved on really at the beginning of the holiday of the Chinese New Year. So we went to holiday still without anything happening, and as a matter of fact, we were forbidden to come back after the holidays. You have normally 10 days working holidays for the Chinese New Year, and exploded the infection and the one case, so the people was limited in the first lockdown over there, a very strong lockdown if compared for what is happening now in Europe or in North America. And as a matter of fact, we cannot re-enter, and we had to wait other 2 weeks before to have the possibility to apply to reopen.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So in a period of 2 weeks, you went from not knowing anything about COVID or even knowing it existed to not even being able to go back to work. That's how quickly that the knowledge to the decision not to go to work. I mean, that's a very rapid response.
Yeah, you have also to consider the kind of country, as a matter of fact,
Sure.
and the possibility that they have to react in a hard way that are not thinkable, as a matter of fact, in the same way on European or in Western country in general.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
for this reason, the people was really forbidden to exit. In the family, only one person per family could go out for looking for food. People that was on the road was measured the temperature. If we were high, you were taken immediately out. You cannot go back home. So really, the people was really scared to go out, as a matter of fact. So
all right.
I was in contact with some of my employees, the few that are also speaking English and so on. They were very scared to exit, as a matter of fact, to go out.
Yeah, I think we all know that the Chinese population is very tightly controlled by the government. They're a lot more submissive, let's say, than Western population, and certainly they have a very autocratic government that makes very rapid response, but they've also used a lot of technology in terms of geotagging and tracking where people have gone. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But let me just back up a section. What is the main reason for your facility existing in China? I believe that you service a specific market there.
Yeah, I say mainly we are serving the customer, the international customer. So customer that like big car producer or other company that we are serving in Europe, in Australia, in North America, and so on, and they want to have the same machine and the same level of service also over there, as a matter of fact. So it's very difficult. We are, if you are considering 100% of our sales, 80% is going to international customer, only 20% is going to local customer. And it is a small premises, so we have only 24 people, as a matter of fact, between employees and blue collar. So it's a very limited, and this has facilitated our reopening because we had a very good distancing. So we were the authority check the factory, and within 1 week after the request, we were able to restart to work, as a matter of fact.
So they actually came in, inspected the facility, made a
No, no,
determination? Okay.
no. In this case, they just ask all the information in terms of space, number of people, so in the different department, and for them there was no need to come to inspect, to be honest.
All right. Yeah, but still, as you can sense, a very rapid response to everything there. Um, in the city where you guys are located, you said 6 million population. Is that correct?
Yes,
And from
yes,
my
correct.
understanding, there wasn't a single death in your city at all.
Yeah, in terms of official data,
Okay.
what we can see, there was not any single death, but also the number of people infected was not so high. I think that really the crucial thing that they were able to block the people before leaving, before returning home. This was really crucial. So, during the Chinese New Year, all the people from the big town go back to the village where they are coming to meet the family one time per year, and they were able to stop it. They forbidden the people to travel back to their home or to go out for holiday. So all the people had already left 1 week before, or they were stopped, as a matter of fact.
That's
And
just
I think this
absolutely,
is really,
yeah, it's just absolutely incredible to believe that they have that ability to restrict the travel. If we try to implement that, if you said people had been away on vacation and you can't go home, I could just imagine a rebellion like what would happen here in the United States or in Italy. So how many employees do you actually have in your facility in China?
we have just over 20 people, so
Okay.
23, 24 people.
And
So
did you have any infection there? Do you have any scares at all?
no, we didn't have any infected guys. Honestly, also talking to our people, they know very, very few guys that can be infected and so on. So we didn't have an infect before we started to work, and until now, of course, we have to work with the face mask. As I said, we have a sufficient distance between the people and so on. But we didn't have any impact in terms of people, human resources, as a matter of fact.
All right. So that's quite encouraging. But let's before we get out of China, let's just talk about the Chinese economy. Um, they lost 3 months of production in a lot of instances, and now that they're coming back out, and we're seeing these really encouraging pictures of Chinese people starting to travel out of Wuhan and stuff is coming right. But unfortunately, from a demand perspective, the rest of the world is going down, and so much of China's economy is dependent on exports worldwide. So, China's always had this magical number of 6% GDP per annum
Yeah.
growth. Is that even achievable now? Will they ever admit that they'll go below zero? What's your take on this?
No, okay. In terms of economy in China, of course, is still very, very slow. They have an overcapacity, an unbelievable overcapacity at the moment. And what we can say, of course, the 6% is a magical number for various reasons. I have to say that I don't see really any possibility to achieve it.
Okay.
In the past, when there were crises, they were really pushing the government with the new infrastructure and so on. In China, they have everything new in terms of airport, highway, train. So in this moment, they are really pushing and they are giving money to the people in order to spend the money with no interest and to have personal loan to spend to finance the internal consumption. But of course, I believe that the internal consumption cannot replace all the exports that are losing at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective, and for all of us all of us business people who are trying to understand the global economy, it's important to realize how big China is in this entire thing. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. So let's move for a second. Go ahead, William.
1.8 billion people, so a lot of people.
A lot of people, massive economy, yeah, and rapidly growing to a point where it's challenging the United States as the dominant economy in the world. Let's now move our focus to Italy. Your facility is located in Pergola, which is about 3 hours directly north of Rome and about 1.5 hours directly south of San Marino, which is this little enclave or country of San Marino, which has the highest per capita death rate of any country in the world. It's almost 3 times the mortality rate of any other country due to COVID. So this has to be of great concern, exactly where your business is.
Yeah. Yes, and as a matter of fact, everything was very quiet until mid of February. Still in Italy, we were not speaking at all, only marginal of this infection in China. And then in our area, we had in mid of February, the final 8 of basket, and 35,000 people arrived from north part of Italy for 4 days of games and shop and tourism and so on. Unfortunately, these people were coming from one of the areas that we became one of the source of the infection in Italy. So without knowing anything, just after 2 weeks, we start to have people infected in the area. And then, of course, the number were growing really a lot. And it was very quick, the situation, because already during the weekend of the 8th of March, we were declared the red zone. And so we take the decision in the company, was still not mandatory, but we took the decision to stop the production and the work in order to reorganize the company to be more safe for our people, as a matter of fact.
So just to confirm, this was a sporting event, a basketball championship that took place. How long was that? 4 or 5 days?
Four was the final 8. So the first, in practice, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But you have 35,000 fans going to restaurant, shop, drinking on the Palasport, where there was performed the event, to go to San Marino for a touristic reason during the morning, the afternoon. So this was our surprise.
The perfect.
Of course,
go ahead, William.
So nobody was expecting anything like this. So we were not aware, and they were not aware to be in the middle of a mess.
And I think you used the word bomb. It was literally as if a bomb went off in this area, and there was just this massive explosion of infection that went everywhere in every direction.
Yeah, in fact. So, and we, of course, a lot of people were affected, mainly old people, as a matter of fact. And so we decided, also based on a little bit of experience locally, but also based on what we have seen in China and so on, to start to reorganize our company. It means that we activate immediately the smart working. Before, with the exception of a couple of sales guys that are really abroad, as a matter of fact, people are in Spain and Russia. The other people are all based in our factory. As a matter of fact, we move out 60% of the white collar, and we organized to work from home. And we suspended the manufacturing in order to relook to the working place and to decide then to reopen in terms of double shift and so on.
All right.
Reduce the people. So.
So you did all of this before the government mandated any lockdowns. So you were ahead of the game. What nationwide lockdowns were mandated by the Italian government?
So as a matter of fact, exactly 2 days, 2 weeks after, when we were ready to start again, came out a lockdown in which were defined essential business, and the essential business, as a matter of fact, were related only to the food chain, food and beverage chain, and of course drugs and so on. So as a matter of fact, we were out of this official chain, and so on.
Okay.
So we had to stop. We have respected the law, and this has created another 3 weeks of stop. So this is
Okay.
what,
So you'd seen a hard shutdown in China mandated by the government, and you saw a softer rollout of restrictions by the Italian government, but actually still a nationwide mandated lockdown, something that we still have not seen in the United States or in Canada. Is that correct?
yeah, is nationwide, and there are the region that can modify, but not so dramatically the central decision and so on. And this also, the lockdown was also for all the family. As a matter of fact, remain open only the shop for food and drugs and tobaccos, and all the other shops were closed. And this is already going on since 3 weeks, and has been now given another term of 3 weeks. And so the people can go out for only for buying food, one per family.
So it's just been extended, is my understanding. They've just extended for another 3 weeks. Okay.
Yes.
So I understand that you've applied for and received a permission to go back to work, because a lot of the parts that you supply are in sort of mission critical in the supply chain for your customers in other areas. So I believe that you're actually going back to work this week.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we are using a possibility, because with our sewing machine are a primary work to cut parts and to go in machine for the food processing, for the beverage processing, for the pharmaceutical, for still the machine for biomedical use. We just received a request also to open, because we have a project to deliver to a Switzerland company that is producing biomedical machine, and there's really they've written, because they have a lot of order from everywhere in the world of machines, so they need the machine and so on. Yeah. So there is the possibility. We have applied, and so we go back to work tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
And so now you will institute 2 shifts, I think an early morning shift and a late afternoon shift, so that you can divide your workforce into 2 and keep the distances apart?
Exactly. We are working in this way, and the people will also be separate at the entrance. We go to take the temperature of the people. The people will work with the face mask, and we have just make 2 shifts in order that we closed also the canteen, so people has to go home to for the food and so on. So we've not used, we have tried to reduce all the possible location for any meeting or things. We have introduced the table of exchange to exchange the documents, to exchange parts and so on. If somebody is leaving a document or somebody is leaving parts, and then is leaving and other people are going to pick up and so on. So okay. you have to change the layout a little bit of your organizations.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you've been, how long have you not been manufacturing? Is this 3 weeks or 4 weeks now?
No, in total is 5 weeks.
5 weeks. All right. So,
5
so let me
weeks.
ask you a question. You produce a durable product. You have the
Yeah.
ability to ramp up once we get back to normal working time. You have the ability to ramp up. You could run overtime. You could run extended shifts. Is there any way for a company like yourself to make up for this 5 weeks of lost revenue, or is the demand side just not there to absorb the capacity that you had?
Yeah, this is the right question. I think that from a company point of view, being still in the first quarter and now just at the beginning of the second, all the possibility to recover. The real thing is the market, because the market is at the moment is drastically reduced, and as usual in the capital goods, when the people have not confident, has not certainty, is postponing investment, and our machine are typical investment.
Yeah, and I know it's been a tough time, not just in management, but also from a personal side. I know that the founder of MEP, Mr. Garatoni, actually passed away recently from the effects of the virus. And if I'm not mistaken, he was the man that actually hired you to come and work for MEP.
Yeah, this is true. He was really let's say, one of the two one of the two people that have grown this company. And of course, he was retired since June of last year, at the end of June of last year. But as a matter of fact, I worked with him about 18 years, and we were all surprised. And he was the guy that called me to work in the group, and that asked me to take the position of CEO that previously was in his hand. And so it was a heavy loss for everybody, and the relation was still good with them. Was his son is one of our sales manager, and so on. So really, really affected everybody, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and my heart goes out to you, to their family, and to everybody else. And just something that you might not know, but one of our dear friends, Emily, our favorite Oceanette, she is dealing with COVID right now, and she's dealing with this at home. She is on, I think, the 14th day of this, struggling to breathe. She and her family are going through this right now. So this is close. It's affecting people that we
Yeah,
know. This is not numbers. This is people. And it's very easy to get
yeah,
lost and just talk of this in something that's remote, but it's real. It's people that you and I know, friendships that we have in common.
yeah. I remember Emily very well because he came a lot of times to the exhibition. So, as a
Right.
matter of
Yeah.
So really,
So
it's really affecting, and the people have not to undervalue this kind of infection, as a matter of fact.
yeah, and I
So
think
can
that's it.
be
Go
very
ahead, William.
soft, can be also very hard.
Yeah, I think it's a way to make it remote so we don't have to face it. It's easy to talk about numbers or pretend that it won't happen to us, and then suddenly something happens and the reality sinks in. Let's switch now. Let's just switch away from that and let's deal with North America. And I think that we more should really deal with Canada and United States similarly because the timeline is fairly similar, and the rollout of the let's call it the restrictions and behaviors and everything is happening at a similar way on a regional level, not at a national level. So tell me a little bit, first of all, where your facilities are in North America and how big they are and how many people you have in these two
So,
facilities.
the historical facility is the one in Woodstock, where HYDMECH was founded. Woodstock, Ontario, is just nearly halfway between Detroit and Toronto. And there we have 110 people. So this is our largest factory in North America. Then we have the second facility is a more recent one that we have in Conway, Arkansas, with about 35 people working there.
Thanks for that insight there. And my understanding is that until just a few weeks ago, you were shipping saws at a record rate. But now things have changed. Give me an idea just how much they have changed.
Yeah, I have to say that in terms of shipment, we are still shipping the machine that were ordered and so on. Of course, somebody has asked some postponement of delivering and so on. The really change in the last 2 weeks was related to decrease in terms of order. This is since 2 weeks that really the bomb arrived also in North America. Of course, the people got more impacted. This is our perception, as a matter of fact.
And both facilities are still operating and manufacturing right now?
Yes, both facilities are still manufacturing, and so we have tried to implement what we have implemented in Italy. We found a little bit more difficulty for the people to use the face mask because so there is a certain resistance from the people and so on. And really, I would really had appreciated to come to Woodstock, to Conway, to travel in the company with the face mask to demonstrate that is opportune, is an help for us, but is also a respect for the other people that are working with you as a method. So it's really important. So it's one of the key.
That's really interesting. I know that I think maybe there was a bit of misinformation initially in North America when we first started dealing with COVID, that there was a lot of discussion that a face mask was not a requirement. And I think this might have got into our psyche. But I think you and I both know a face mask is critical. And I'm beginning to see companies here in the United States not even allowing people to go into the facility without a face mask. So we're starting to see a change in behavior finally.
Yeah, I hope so, because really this kind of infection, there is also another aspect very important is that there is a lot of positive people symptomatic. So when you are meeting a guy, you have always to think that he can be infected, and in the same time you have to respect him. You have to think that you can be affected, you can be positive. There was just a new research done in New York, came out yesterday in the New England Medicine Journal. They make a statistic on the people, on the women that were going to deliver in New York between March 22nd and April 4th, and nearly 16% of the women that arrived to deliver in New York, they were positive. And only 1 over 8 women, so really only 1 was symptomatic. 7 women over 8 were not symptomatic at all. This is just a statistic very recently in your country. I think that in our country, the percentage is already much higher.
Yeah, I think this is a critical component of our understanding and how we need to behave. You make this valid point. We have to walk around as if we ourselves are infected. We have to respect other people. We have to wear a face mask to prevent ourselves from infecting somebody else. It's not about protecting ourselves from being infected by somebody else, because we have no idea at all whether we're infected at all. In your facilities in North America, in Canada, and in the United States, have you had any infections on your job floors there?
No. So officially, we don't have any infection. And of course, we are monitoring people and we leave at home as soon as they have a minimum fever or cough and so on. I have to say that is surprising, but we have already experienced at the beginning also here in Europe. If we are not really bad, it's really difficult to get tested. So in Canada, where we have officially requested, and there was 5 days of waiting list if we have bad symptom. In Arkansas, it was a little bit less, and we have organized the testing for one guy that was not positive. But I have to say, it's not so easy to get tested with all the requests that they are. All the number that we see every day and so on are just giving a trend, an indication of trend, but are not representing the real number of the infected people.
That's absolutely critical. Thank you for saying that. Yes, we are completely underreporting because we have no way, in terms of the amount of testing that we've done, it's just a fraction of the population. So we have no idea of how many people are not only ill, but asymptomatic, positive, and walking around infecting others. So yeah, all right, let's just stop for a second on North America, and let's just take a look at your operation in Brazil. I know it's a small operation, but it's an interesting, the country itself provides a slightly different approach. And my heart actually goes out to Brazil because finally, after 8 years of economic mess, it looked like they were finally about to come out of this. And there was hope for all of us that there was really some light at the end of the tunnel. And then now we get this on top of it. So tell me a little bit about your operation in Brazil and what's been going on there.
Okay, so in Brazil, we have an operation since 2012 just to serve the local market. So the machines are coming from mainly from Woodstock and Italy. So from Canada and Italy, some also from, it's true, also some from Arkansas. And the crazy thing is that they took the decision and the action just after the carnival. So I think that they create really a mess with the carnival. You know, you have seen probably image of the Brazilian carnival, and they stop everything after the playing the carnival. So, of course, this was a wonderful vehicle for the infection, as a matter of fact, and the state have started, like state of Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and so on, to close and to lock down the company. And as in all the other, I have to say, comparing to Europe, they have first lockdown 2 weeks, and now they've already increased the other 2 weeks. So it was a market really reopening because honestly, since half of last year, we have seen starting to pick up order from the large customer like Fiat Chrysler, General Motors, and so on. And now is everything stop again.
Yeah, and I also believe that there's a lot of infighting happening at government level about what restrictions to impose or what's not. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, in fact, I think that is more something familiar to United States. So you have a fight between the governor of the single states and the president that would like to show that was not important and so on. So the president, the federal president is pushing to keep open, and the state governor, certain also of the opposition of the, and so on, are keeping the state. Honestly, we see this kind of micro fight everywhere. You see it's also in Italy between the region and the prime minister. You can see in United States. This is the difference with China. In China, you have not a problem to convince people for the war. So it's easier to take also bad decision because you have not to go to election after 6 months. And so it's more.
Yeah, so there's very little personal repercussion if you get the decision wrong. Yeah, so people make a decision quickly because there are no consequences. Here, people really think about it a lot because they're all playing the risk assessment. Am I going to get voted in? Am I going to get voted out? History will prove that I destroyed the economy or killed the people, and people are not sure which way to go.
But for the nature of this disruption, the problem that the decisions that are taken now are coming are giving a result after 3 weeks, 4 weeks. This is the fact. So the people that is passing away now is people that got infected 4 weeks ago. If you take 4 or 5 weeks ago, because normally average time of people in intensive care is 2-3 weeks. So you got 2 weeks before. So the action that you are taking also in your factory, you will see the effect in 4 or 5 weeks. This for a politic is very difficult to keep.
I see this, and I also certainly going to see it in the stock market. We take a look at the prices that are priced in now. We haven't even seen the earning reports, and so the mortality is 5 weeks late. The earnings report is going to be a quarter late. So the market right now has not priced in anything of what's about to happen, and we're living in my opinion, in a dream state right now, believing that we've had a rebound. But let's stop for a second. Let's talk about the overall assessment. You've got 5 companies in 4 continents. But before we do that, you mentioned something when we chatted a couple of days ago. You said you saw something that really illustrates the different approach between the different countries and how they dealt with it. You said you were looking at the flight trackers of the airplanes flying around the world, and you could see tell me what you saw. Explain it. Yeah.
No, there are this program where you can have a visual look of how many flights are flying around the world. So if you go to over Europe and over China, you see that the number of flights are nearly zero, like in Italy, France, Central Europe, and so on, and very little now in China. You still see a lot of flight going on. I don't know how much they are full, but really traveling around United States and Canada. So this is a perfect way to transfer the disease, not because it's dangerous to travel in the flight and so on. So this is not the story, but really because we have a lot of people that is positive, they don't know, and they are going to the control, to the inspection, to the check-in, to take the luggage at the arrival, and so you are getting much more in contact with other people. So I am a lover of to flight, and you know that for more than 20 years I had 150 flights per year. So it's not a fact now. I trust the company, but really the possibility to meet some people infected is increasing exponentially.
Well, thank you. That's really an interesting thing. I'm going to get to that in a second. We're going to touch on that again because I just want to get back sort of to the business side of this equation. We'll get back to the travel side. But I think for all of us, unless you're really, really old and you were around in World War II, which would make you incredibly old, we have never seen a time where the entire world slowed down at the same time. Every stoppage or crisis has been localized. We've had stuff in the States, we've had stuff in Europe, we've had stuff everywhere. And even most recently in 2008, where we had the economic crisis here in the States, I was exporting machines all over the world because our dollar was weak, our machines were priced well, and they were booming. The commodity prices were through the roof. But right now, we've got the entire world stopping as one.
Yeah.
How do we come out of this? How quickly do we come out of this? I'm interested in your perspective because I don't know anybody, there's nobody that I know that has a better worldly perspective. You have your finger on the pulse in all these different
No,
places. How quickly do we come out of this?
yeah, this is there are no comparison as a matter. There are no really comparison in the last century of a similar situation. And so really the only comparison we have made, the really comparison, the World War II. But there is still a difference that economy are suffering the uncertainty. So World War II, after 1945, you were sure that the war was closed. The war was finished. So the people start to rebuild the world. While now you have a situation that how long is going to affect the virus, the situation. Let's be positive. 3 months, 4 months. I'm thinking about North America, that is the last one now that is entering in this storm. And then after, how long will it take? Will be a possibility of vaccination, on we have to keep the measure of social distance and so on. So there is still so many things uncertain. For this situation is really a unique situation. So
All right.
difficult to make any real forecast.
That brings me to a really important part that pertains to our industry where we sell capital goods. We have this habit, it's a very expensive habit, where we go and we exhibit our brand new products at trade shows, thousands of trade shows all over the world happening. So here we are, we're in a convention center in a very compact environment. We're rubbing shoulders with people that are traveling from all around the world. They may be symptomatic, asymptomatic, we have no idea. When do trade shows start again for us?
No idea. Just to give you an idea, we are present in more than 50 trade shows worldwide. We are present in New Zealand, in Australia, we are present in China, in Korea. I'm going from east to west. We are present in Thailand, in Russia, in Europe, everywhere, and so on. And until now, all the trade exhibitions were cancelled, and with the exception of UK that postponed to January next year, all the other have been rescheduled between October and November. So will be certain week that we are expecting to be present in 3 or 4 exhibitions worldwide. I think that we are going to cancel a lot of this because it's impossible and so on. And the second, I'm really curious to see the first that are reopening, to see how many people are going. A lot of change will be in our business in terms of how to sell the product, how to service the product. Also in terms of product, being at home now, I think that everybody is thinking a lot what can be the future. In North America, for example, the safety issue are much more or less stressed compared to other areas. I think that after this situation, where a lot of attention to the safety is present, also for ourselves, machine builder, we have to improve to look more, because the customer will require also much more safety and for the machine. So a lot of change.
Yeah, so you've touched on a few things that I want to sort of flesh out a little bit there. Yeah, you mentioned this thing about we're all figuring out how we take our products to market. And I heard this phrase yesterday, it said, we're all learning how to digitize the way we go to market. So trade shows might be done with virtual reality, even installation of products might be done with a virtual reality training module or something like that, so we don't have to fly. The confidence is the important thing. You and I both share a passion for motor racing. As you know, I race cars, and we're all talking about, our season's on hold. We don't know what to do with ourselves because we like to get back behind the wheel of a car. And people are talking about us going racing in June. And I just going, I don't mind racing my car, but how do I get there? Do I have to get on a plane? Do I have to sleep in a hotel? All of these are the things that are going through my mind, because the minute that you extend this chain of custody, I can control what's happening in my house. I can control what I touch. My wife and I touch this and that. But the minute you get outside of your home or outside of your immediate world, the chain of custody is completely lost. And you have no idea what kind of, anti-contamination procedures, sterilization procedures are being done in these environments. And there could be dormant germs on all these facilities that we touch. And anyway, I don't want to delve into this too much, but I am just like you. I'm really interested to see at which point the confidence arrives back in the general populace to get back into planes, get back into tight spaces, to go back to sporting events, sitting and rubbing shoulders, go back into bars and sit next to somebody that you don't know. All of these things, this is going to take a lot of courage. Obviously, if we have some sort of vaccine or something, everything changes completely. But in the absence of that, it's either going to take stupidity, it's going to take extreme hope, or just a complete denial of the risk, because this thing is not going to just disappear.
Yeah, this is the fact. Or will be a way in a shorter time to have really to know your situation, because a lot of us maybe they are already had and they are already immune for this, as a matter of fact. So now we are still having too much uncertainty, and in this situation it's very difficult to make new budget, a new forecast, because there are too many variables to take into account that are really impossible.
One of the final things, and I know we're running a little bit longer than I planned, and this is really, sorry, I could spend a couple more hours with you because I think it's so valuable. I wished we'd done this right at the beginning. I was just scared that it would, we had some technology we had to sort of perfect before we made this happen. But I think the thing that you and I are both beginning to understand, or not just you and I, but certainly the entire world, is the onshoring of the supply chain. We have had the situation where we've got certain products are made in one place and one place only, and we're now understanding the repercussion if that place cannot produce. And so at some point, we have to start looking at the entire supply chain and start thinking about onshoring. In your mind, do we bring some of this manufacturing back to the United States or Canada, or do we bring it back to a geographical area close by where there might be some price advantages? How do you see this onshoring happening?
I agree. We will see some reshoring, not only in North America, also in Europe, and so on. Really, because we understood that for certain things, certain components, and so on, we are too far from where we can find it. More than reshoring in US and so on, I think that we'll grow for macro region, one related to the Americas, one to Europe, North Africa, one to some related to China, some related to India, so to some really 4 big regions, and a lot of work would be reshored inside this region. And I think difficult that a lot of work intensive are coming back to United States, where, as a matter of fact, it's also difficult to find blue collar for a lot of production. So maybe that they're coming back to Mexico, they're coming back to Central America, but for sure this kind of situation is going to make much more than any kind of impositive law and so on. The people understood that they cannot have a basic production nearby.
Yeah, thank you, William. I appreciate that insight. Yeah, we're all realizing this, and I think we're starting, even here in the States, we're starting to even see domestic supply chain issues with relative to foods and meats and all of these things that we're starting to see the issues with the supply chain beginning. The train has been moving, but now the train is slowing down, and we're starting to understand that it's not always going to get to the station. So an interesting time. I think we need to wrap this up now before we carry on too long. If knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to our viewers based on avoiding infection or mortality with COVID? What advice would you give them?
I think that in the factory, really to implement all the suggestion of the World Health Organization, and also to be also more proficient. If you can add also the face mask, add the face mask. And really remember, everybody can be infected. There's nothing that you can really improve and so on. But if you want to stop the disease, we have really to everybody to fight about this. And then this is the main things, as a matter of fact.
Thanks. And I think the thing that you and I both agree is never relax. The minute that you take your eye off the ball. We got a question here from Jeremy. He's asking us, is your China facility the only one that is back to full production?
I have to say that also the Chinese is not back to full production because, as we said at the beginning, the economy in China is really slow at the moment. So there is no one facility at full production at the moment.
Thank you for that. All right, William, let's just wrap this up. I know that you fly even more than I fly. How many thousand miles do you fly a year on average?
I have no idea, but since 1994, because before was traveling, but not so much, I'm making between 130, 170 flights per year. So
and you're doing some long flights. You're going to China, you're going to Russia, Australia, North America, Canada, Brazil, everywhere.
So yes, so this is.
So you're stuck at home, and you're stuck in Fano, which is actually a really beautiful place. I know that you've just come out of your Easter weekend, and you had a very unusual Easter weekend. I think your daughter is stuck in London. Tell us about
My older daughter is stuck in London because she's working in London, UK. And as a matter of fact, we have organized the Easter lunch through WhatsApp. So with her, we are here in Fano, myself, my wife, and my younger daughter. And the older daughter was in London, and the boyfriend of the older daughter was in Milan. He got stuck in Milan. So we had the lunch together through WhatsApp, as a matter of fact.
Well, that's really lovely. Isn't technology amazing? Yeah, thank God we have this that allows us to do this, because we'd be very cut off. William, thank you so much for joining us today. The amazing extent of your reach in business and personal life. Every time I chat to you, I always feel that I become better educated. So thank you not only for the great business partnership, but for your friendship and your insight. And thank you for taking the time out of your day. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you for the opportunity, and really, please take care, stay safe, and we will make it.
William, thanks so much. To those of you that have called in and emailed us with your feedback and suggestions, we really appreciate those, and we're trying to implement as much of your requests as possible. We're now broadcasting live twice per week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as I mentioned, Tom Clash will be joining us this Thursday to talk about the stimulus and what we can all be doing to qualify for funds that are provided under the Act. Thanks to all of our viewers that sent in your comments. Hopefully we're able to get to them. And I hope you found this show entertaining and useful. Hopefully there were some insightful takeaways from William Giacometti over there in Italy. If you did enjoy this episode, please give us a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. And we look forward to catching up with you again on Thursday. Till then, goodbye. Please stay safe and healthy, and best wishes from all of us. Thanks. Goodbye.